On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, we're previewing and predicting number 5, Georgia versus number 1, Texas. We have a top 5 matchup in Austin for the first time in a long time, Dylan. The basic game info here, as always, Saturday the 19th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. The details have not changed. The game will be televised on ABC. And the Longhorns, Dylan. The Longhorns are favored by 3.5 points. So get us into that Bulldog scouting report of their offense, will you?
Yeah, well, at offensive coordinator Devon, they've got Mike Bobo, as well as the quarterback's coach. So he's going to be hand in hand with Beck. And with Bobo, he had success last year. They were ranked 5th in the country in total yards and scoring offense, albeit Devon, they might have had the best tight end prospect that the NFL's seen in a long time with Brock Bowers, who's no longer there, and Ladd McConkey, who's been a reliable player on the Chargers this season alongside that. And those were big reasons for success. And now you're seeing this season, they're 33.5 points per game. That's 35th in the country. They're 9th in the country in 318 pass yards per game. So that's something that they've been able to get going in the past few games. And then you've got, not what you want to see if you're Bobo in terms of rush yards. They've got 134 per game. It's 92nd in the country. And then Devon total yards of offense, 28th. So nothing spectacular for Georgia. Still, higher level offense that Texas is going to see. This is the best offense that Texas is going to see for probably the entirety of the season until the playoffs if Texas were to make it, Devin, in a hypothetical world, right? So this is going to be a big test for them, and it's all going to be starting with their impact players, specifically with obviously Carson Beck. I was looking for photos of him, Devin, to put on the thumbnail, and all I could find was him and one of the Cavender twins. Apparently they're dating. So I don't know if that's a
Wow,
confidence boost going into this game.
how do you name drop
But that is
that in a
something.
video? Okay,
I,
continue, please.
this is just something that I realized
Are you
during this.
sure you didn't type in Cavender
During
twin and
this,
get Carson back?
no, I got Carson Beck. But it was both. It was best of both worlds, right?
Okay.
Got doing my job and whatever. But he's a projected first round pick, and he's going to be the best quarterback Texas will face all season. He's been 3rd in the SEC with 1,800 pass yards per game, or in the season, Devin. I'm going to lose Devin here. He's in the
I'm setting him up
SEC
to
with
fail,
15
guys.
pass yards.
I'm setting
And
him
he's
up to fail. Continue on,
but
please.
one
Control
one weak
yourself.
point is he's tied for 3rd in interceptions in the SEC with 5. He had 3 against Alabama, and then he had 2 in the last game against Mississippi State. So Beckman slinging the ball around right now with how Georgia's been playing. They need him to be that gunslinger, whereas in the past it was a little bit more balanced, and their defense was able to support them. But again, you'll get into it later, Devin. But the defense hasn't been up to the Georgia standard, at least in the past few games. So that's something to watch out for. Beck's going to need to have a big game going into this one, and he can throw it anywhere on the field. So he's really going to test this secondary for Texas, who hasn't seen anything like this. And then you've got Trevor Etienne at running back, Devin. Obviously, relative towards the running back for Jacksonville in the NFL, right? So
Is it
he's
Travis?
a projected.
I always blank on
Yeah,
the first name.
Travis.
Uh,
I didn't pick
we
him
are
in
recording
fantasy.
late. Dylan usually
I stayed away.
is way in bed by this point. But yes, names are
Mm-hmm.
coming back, Dylan. Travis
Grinding me
Etienne,
out. But yeah,
Trevor Etienne
yeah,
for the Bulldogs.
with Trevor Etienne, he's a day 2 or day 3 pick, Devin, at the moment. So NFL caliber running back. He's only got 335 rush yards on the season with 5.3 yards per attempt and 4 touchdowns. Big key point, though, he's gotten more involved in the pass game. He's had 6 receptions in the past 2 games that Georgia has played. So he is a guy, he's a bit of a threat coming out of the backfield, catching the ball. So that's something that the linebackers, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Benda, this is going to be a vocal point for them as well, because with how Georgia's offense has been able to spread the ball out, it's going to open up the middle of the field, specifically short yardage plays. So watch out for Etienne over there. And then a wide receiver, Arian Smith, Devin, has been leading the team in reception yards with 412. And he's got 17.9 yards per catch, as well as 3 receptions, touchdowns on 23 receptions. He's the guy to watch out for when it comes down to Georgia and the deep play threat, amongst their other receivers, but definitely key in on Smith. He's going to be the one really putting that pressure, again, on this secondary. Offensive line, no big surprise, ton of NFL talent on that line. So it's going to be a big day for the front seven of Texas. And then Devon, a tight end to watch out for, Lawson Lucky. He's only a sophomore. He doesn't lead. He's not the leading tight end on the depth chart, but he does lead tight ends on the team with 10 receptions, 144 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So that's another. He's not Brock Bowers, but that's just another name to make note of in the receiving core.
Yeah, Georgia and their tight ends. Not quite Iowa standard, Dylan, but Bowers will, of
Sorry,
course, have the potential to change that. But the Raiders, I don't know. That's a literal desert out there. Was there anything else on
wasn't
the
playing well.
offense? Nothing against him, just the Raiders in general. Devontae
Mm.
Adams. Anyway, was that the wrap on the offense right there?
Unless you want another 10 minutes,
All right, I'll take 10 minutes
that
from
covers
you
it.
and get it myself. Now, Dylan might be a little tired from his, early bird self. Devon is just reaching peach hour. Peach hours. Oh,
Peach. Mm-hmm.
peach tea at Pete Terry's, guys. Peak
You
hours.
like your peaches.
I do, but not Georgia, Dylan, because in this game, it's going to be a toss-up. So I can't pick one or the other, the Horns or the Peach. But Dylan, in this game,
Mm.
the Bulldogs enter with the 27th ranked defense in the country in terms of yards per game, with 312.5 yards per game allowed. And as you were saying before, that's maybe not up to the Georgia standard. However, there are a lot of teams in college football, and being 27th ranked is actually quite good, with there being, Dylan, I believe, about 133 qualifying teams, if I'm not mistaken. However, a theory continues to just harvest itself here. A safety is leading the Georgia Bulldogs in tackles. And if you guys have watched any of my
Which
videos,
safety though?
Malachi Starks,
Isn't that's a little different?
he's very good. He's just good at his job. He's good at his job. But backup evidence, Dylan, redshirt senior safety, Dan Jackson, is second
Mm-hmm.
in the
Oh,
team in tackles. So your top
okay.
two tackling leaders are in the secondary. Of course, Malachi Starks, yet again, very good at his job, one of the best in the sport. That's no
Can't be
hate.
understated.
That's
One
no
of the
hate.
best.
No hate on the man. That's more of a team stat for me right now in terms of what's going on. But Malachi
Mm.
Starks leading the team. The secondary has been, fairly solid, Dylan. Defensively, they're ranking, I got the stats here, 39th in the country in passing defense. And meanwhile, the run defense, I see you cracking over there. The run defense is ranked 44th. So, solid overall. Points wise, also even better than that. They're 20th in the country in points allowed per game, with about 17 roughly. So, defensively, yet again, like Dylan's saying, it is similar to Georgia of old, just not maybe the highest caliber of guys on that defense overall. And I'm talking about like first round NFL talent guys. Now, Starks, that might be the exception there. He's been excellent. The defense overall, as I've been saying, has been solid. And then up front, redshirt junior, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. I love a good three-parter name.
Mm-hmm.
He leads the team in sacks with 3. However, just Georgia's been struggling to get to the quarterback, Dylan. They're ranked tied for, I believe, 80th, which is not too solid, in sacks per game with 1.83
Yeah.
overall. Just the Georgia team, they're doing well. If you aren't getting the theme of my segment here, they're doing well, but not quite the Georgia we typically think of in the past maybe 5 years. So Texas has an opportunity here to take advantage. However, this is also probably, Dylan, one of the most complete defenses, if not the best, that Texas has faced, up there with Michigan. And so this has been the game that's been circled on calendars all year. We're going to see how Quinn Ewers and the squad can take advantage of that. Now, Dylan, we're going to move over to X Factors. How are you feeling here? Who's your X Factor?
Yeah, I wanted to delve more into the Georgia offense. Lawson Lucky, I think, just stands out. Him and the tight end groupings in general with Oscar Delp and Ben Urosek, Devin. I wanted to highlight those because those are important in this matchup with this game in theory, I feel like with Georgia to keep up, it's going to be a high scoring game if Georgia has a chance in this ultimately with how things stack up. I think both teams, obviously, these offenses can score at will, depending on the matchups. But that extra layer, that second gear for this Georgia offense is going to be unlocking that tight end groupings because that's if they're able to spread the field with their receivers here, right? And you got Dylan Bell, you got Aaron Smith, who I highlighted earlier, you got Dominic Lovick, right? Like these are absolute athletes that are going to be taking the safeties out of the game. They're going to be taking the corners out, and that's going to leave again the rabid animals that are Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons having to play against some tight ends that are a bit higher caliber than the ones that they faced. I obviously went up against Colson Loveland, but they had no one. Loveland had no one to throw in the ball, right? So in this case, Beck's going to be able to at least get it in a place where a guy like Lawson Lucky can make a play. And with them being so good last year because of Brock Bowers, I think if Lucky or Delp or Yursek can get more than 50 yards receiving in this game or combine up to 100, that's probably way too much. But just get highly involved in this game and force the linebackers for Texas to not be able to just pin their ears back and go straight in. They have to play spy or they have to take a look at these tight ends before going in. Like these are all the things that just add an extra piece of awareness so that Texas can't do the one thing that they really want to do on defense, and that's go get that bone, right? So there's just it's just not what Anthony Hill is going to be able to do in this if these tight ends are playing up to standard.
Yeah, Dylan, you highlighted many of the linebackers. I do want to give some kudos as well to Leona Lafau. He's been playing great for the Longhorns, and you're talking about pinning your ears back. He's really allowed Texas to do that and really helping out in terms of just playing up the middle. And as you're talking about tight ends, he's going to be very involved in trying to cover those tight ends. But if, of course, as you're saying, if it's not working out, guys like Anthony Hill Jr. and Colin Simmons are not going to be able to rush the passer as much and are going to be asked to do a little bit more of some coverage task that they haven't done as
Yeah,
much or as often. Now, X factors on my side, I'm going to cheat. And Dylan, I know you're going to hate me for this.
you're going to say it again, aren't you?
No, I don't have a person. I have just a word:
Oh,
turnovers. The Longhorns, guys, at the start of the Oklahoma game, they were asking just for points scored, Dylan. They were on Brent Venable's doorstep. Sark was just pleading, please score on my
mm,
defense. Quinn Ewers with the interception on the first offensive drive, giving Oklahoma great field position. And guess what? They only marched a little bit, and Dylan, I believe that drive ended in a missed field goal. Just they could not take advantage. This Georgia team, we talked about maybe not being as high of a caliber as teams in the past. That's not saying much, Dylan. That's saying Georgia that's been number one in and of itself, all alone, with some Alabama contention in between the years versus now a fifth-ranked team that with the win is going to propel themselves into likely the top 3 or 4 for sure. It's not, Dylan, just how I don't know. It's a team that you're looking at me funny. Why are you doing that? It's a solid
no,
team. It's a solid team. So turnovers.
yeah.
This Georgia offense, like you're saying, they have a balanced passing attack. Carson Beck started the year with the Heisman favorite odds. Of course, we've had an interesting Heisman year, Dylan. Travis Hunter gets my
It's still
vote.
there for him.
Maybe too
This is
trendy.
one.
Maybe too trendy of
I
a
don't know.
pick.
Have you seen the guy at Boise State?
No, that is the leader in my opinion. The
Yeah.
running back at Boise State. However, just
Although if Carson Beck got 35 carries per game, maybe it'd be a different story.
well, I don't know if Georgia and Kirby Smart want to run Carson Beck
Nah,
because he might not be a great quarterback after that,
you
especially
never
with,
know.
as you said, Anthony Hill pinning his ears back. But all that to say, this Georgia offense might not be as explosive as years past, as Dylan highlighted with different players that aren't on the team anymore. However, they are still a really good offense, as even indicated in that Alabama game that was very high scoring. So turnovers, if Longhorns give Georgia extra possessions, expect them to take advantage and capitalize on those. And then on the flip side too, Dylan, the same thing goes for Texas. Creating turnovers against Georgia, of course, is going to put them in a great position, especially with how efficient that offense has been as well. It seems like every week, if someone struggles, someone else steps up. when Travion Wisner at running back, Dylan, has just surprised me. And I'll be open and honest, Dylan. Coming out of high school, I wasn't sure he was going to cut it on the roster. He was great on special teams his first year. And, give him kudos. He's fought for that spot. He had some breaks that went his way, but when he had the opportunity to take advantage of that, he has. It looks like he's now solidified himself as RB1, and he looked great against Oklahoma. It's going to be on him and Quinn Ewers, of course, to shoulder a lot of that load against Georgia. So turnovers, whoever, of course, wins the battle, looking pretty good, like in any
And
football game.
we're gonna need to redefine the term X factors though for you because last week it was Quinn Ewers, and that's a vocal point of the offense. I wouldn't say that it's an X factor, and the turnovers is just a big part of the game. If you win the turnover battle, you more than likely win, right? So I don't know. I just feel like you're
You
cheating
don't even know
consistently.
the ETN names, Dylan. I don't know why you're coming at me. I mean, come on. Come on. Now,
Trevor and Travis, come
I
on.
think Ewers off of an injury. I think that's a fair point. But anyway, I'm
But
going to
then the
cut
X
Dylan
factors is
off
oblique.
before we
I
can
wouldn't say
continue.
Ewers himself.
Well, if you want it different, let's change the name to Not So Boring X Factors, and I'll give you that. We got danger level
I'm just
now.
saying your X factors are like impact players. Like
That's what an X
I'm
Factor is, but
picking
thank you.
third string tight ends over here.
What's your danger level here?
Well, of getting killed by you because of this X Factor comment, or the danger level in this game.
Maybe both, but go ahead with the game.
Danger level in this, Devin. No surprise. I've got 9. I've got a danger level of 9. Almost just blaring red alert, almost there. And a big part of that is this Georgia team. Breaking news: they do not have the same level of offense that Oklahoma and Michigan have, which are the better of the two teams that Texas has played
You say
all
Michigan?
season. Yeah, yeah, we're talking Michigan
All right,
apparently.
continue.
Yeah, breaking news again: Michigan does not have the level of quarterback play that Georgia does. Carson Beck is a top 3 quarterback in the country. Say what you will, he's definitely top 3. He's passed for more than 700 plus yards in the past 2 games, and they were trailing by a lot against Alabama after the first half, but he threw for over 450 yards against them, even when they started to play actual defense going into the fourth quarter when Georgia was mounting that comeback, right? So he's able to make plays all over the field. What I will say that Georgia lacks comparative to past history, they don't have James Cook. They don't have Sony Michelle. They don't have DeAndre Swift. They don't have Nick Chubb. They don't have Todd Gurley, right? A whole slew of Georgia running backs from the past. They don't have that same level of talent on this team, same kind of difference makers. So that what makes them different, as well as the secondary, the front seven, not what we're accustomed to of your typical Georgia team. So that's why at home I don't have it at that 10, Devin, but Georgia's definitely within striking range of winning this game if all things do go well. It's just what keeps me from that 10 is I just really believe in this Texas trenches, the way that they built this team up through the recruiting pipeline, through additions outside in the transfer portal. This offensive line, best in the country, defensive line playing great, replacing the stars from last year, right? So as well as match up well with quarterback and wide receivers too. So there you go.
Okay. I also have a 9 as Dylan's losing
There
it
you
on
go.
camera. Um, Dylan, no, you're correct. Know your points. Although a
Thank you.
little flaky
I just
mentally. It's
transition
okay.
words.
It's a
I didn't
little.
work on my
I
transitions.
see a little deterioration going on up there live on camera, but it's
It's
okay.
all fuzzy. Devin, I can't.
Guys, this is
I think McConaughey's moving the bookshelf in my room.
Dylan
I think he's
showing
trying to tell me
signs of
something.
early onset something right now, but we're going to continue on. Texas in Georgia for Texas, danger level, of course, got to be high. And I'm with you, Dylan. I think this is a string of weeks in a row that we have the same danger level, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy because usually we don't have the same. I've got a 9 here for Texas. Like you said, this
Mm.
Georgia team is no joke. I'm giving a 9 for that reason. Now, are they the best team to ever have set foot on a field? No. So I reserve 10 for, clear cut, um, Dylan dynasty level play. But Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
you got Kirby Smart. Seems like he's always on the correct sideline in terms of matchups, Dylan. Of course, you got Steve Sarkisian on the other end, both being a common talking point, I'm sure, this weekend former assistants, yes, Dylan, of Nick Saban. Oh my gosh, wow. I really broke the internet on that one with some deep research. However, College Game Day is going to be there, 6:30 p.m. kickoff. You got ABC, the lights are bright. But as
Mm,
Dylan, as you were saying, this Texas team, I'm almost skeptical with how much we believe in them because it just feels like something is going to go wrong because it always goes wrong. I mean,
mm,
I got the stats here. Texas has the second, pause for major emphasis, second best passing defense. And I said passing defense. 22nd best rushing defense. Now I pause for emphasis because Dylan, if you watch our videos from last year, I'm sure if you got a little time of possession in terms of what we rant about, I can guarantee you without a doubt that passing defense was number one because it was not pretty. So they went from being
mm.
horrible, I think near last in the country, Dylan, in passing defense, now second best. And Dylan, of course, they've got added talent back there, but I think a large part, yet again, just to give more kudos to the group, I think that a large part of that, ironically in some way, but it's complementary football, is those edge rushers for the Longhorns. Quarterbacks don't have as much time anymore to throw the football, which is really alleviating the pressure for the secondary. They're not having to cover guys 10 seconds anymore. Of course, a little bit of exaggeration there, but not having to cover guys as long, and it's paid off. They've got talent back there, and they're finally able to do their job. Let's see if that continues, though, against Georgia, because yet again, this
Yep.
offense has been solid. And as you were mentioning, Carson Beck just being a dude. He's got threats at wide receiver, and they're all pretty similar in terms of overall production right now, which almost makes it more difficult to game plan for. Now, Dylan, I'm going to
Yep.
move into predictions here. I think I forgot to actually list my score prediction number last weekend, so when it's my turn, guys, I will actually make the number pick this time.
Mm.
I didn't want to get off the hook so easy again. Dylan, what's your number?
I'm not going to give it yet. We're going to build to that
It
point,
wouldn't
Devin. But
be a
I have something
video
to
if
say.
Dylan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I went into this matchup going, I just don't want to pick against Kirby Smart ever. I just don't. He's been one of the premier head coaches for the past 5 to 10 years for Georgia, as well as just in college football. When you look at the amount of head coaches that have a title that are still coaching, Kirby Smart's one of the few that are there. After Nick Saban left, there's only like one or two head coaches. I think it's Mac Brown and Kirby Smart, Devin. They're like the only two coaches that have a ring that are still coaching in college football at the moment. It's something crazy. And there
Dabo
might be one
maybe
guy I'm forgetting
too.
right now. Yeah, I forgot about Dabo.
I'm
Sorry.
sure there's some more
George,
names. Yeah.
I'm just saying
Not a
it's
large list
not a
because
long
of
list.
Nick
No.
Saban and Smart. Yes. Continue.
Exactly. And that just goes into the pedigree. And that's a big when I'm doing research, right? Or let's just say this before going into research, off the dome, initial thoughts. I think Georgia will figure it out. This is a must win for them. They've already lost to Bama. A 2-win SEC team can still make it, but if they lose this game to Texas, they're sitting at that 10 to 12 range for the rest of the season, trying to just stay in it and probably won't be able to play for an SEC championship game to get that resume boost that they'd be hoping for to have a home playoff game. Right. So there's a lot on the line here. Plus, Kirby Smart does not lose to any other teams other than Bama. In all honesty, recent history that just hasn't been the case. It's just been purely Nick Saban has had the one up on him most of the time. So this is a big game for Texas. It's nice that they've got it at home, but when you look into the stats, and it's something that's not, I feel like it's brushed aside by the emotional points that people make. I'm talking like just media outlets in general. I mean, they're talking about like Texas hasn't faced quarterback like Carson Beck. Adjustments and pedigree go to Kirby Smart over Sarkeesian. Again, like I said earlier, this is a must win for Georgia. But if you look at the trenches, I think Texas is the better team in the trenches. I think the secondary is better for Texas. And I'm saying that because, and I don't want to just be like, okay, Texas manhandled or beat Mississippi State by a certain amount, whereas Mississippi State put up 31 on Georgia and only lost by 10 last week against them. But Van Buren looked really good against Georgia's secondary. And he did not look good at it. He looked like his head was chopped off against Texas. So there's either he got just more experience and looked better against Georgia because he just got more accustomed, or like Texas is that good. So these are just the question marks going into this game, but I can only go off of what I've seen. And with Texas, again, Cupcake schedule us all you want, but they've beaten everybody that they've played how they're supposed to beat them, right? They've left no questions about who's the better team on that field. So I just think, and you mentioned it earlier too, Texas, something always goes wrong. I don't think that this is the team. I think the blinders need to come off. I think the veil needs to come off. That this Texas team is not what people think. I think the two best teams in the country right now is Texas and Oregon slash Ohio State. Right. I one and 2A, 2B. Right. And this just isn't like Georgia has not looked like a complete team, and Texas is at home. They look great. And I think everyone's going to know how good this team is by the end of the day. I got Texas winning this 38-31, Devin.
All right, all right. 38-31, one score game. And as we talked about before, the line is at 3.5 points. So they have it as a one possession contest. Now, Dylan, as you said, the tiers in college football right now are quite funky in terms of,
Yeah.
yet again, it feels like you're driving a car and you know something's going to go wrong or go wrong at some point, and you just keep on driving, crossing your fingers. I feel like that's this Texas team, Dylan. Things seem to be going too well. And as you're talking about the tiers, right now, yet again, you know, cupcake schedule all you want, as you're saying, you got to beat the teams that are scheduled regardless, and they've been doing that in impressive fashion. Not only that defense just being smothering, but the offense also putting up, I believe, 35 points, Dylan, in every single game so far this season. Like both sides have been doing their job. Yet again, we talk about schedule and matchups. Has the matchups so far been amazing? I would say no. This is going to be a big test for them. Like you said, that would be a major talking point for me as well. I know with the media in general, facing the best quarterback they faced and really the best team in terms of being well rounded. Of course, however, like you said, I think the stronger point on our end right now has been the almost surprising element that Longhorns have had and just being three-dimensional. It seems like when something goes wrong with one side of the ball, the other side picks it up. Yet again, I was talking about that earlier in the video. Yet again, Oklahoma, guys. Oh, offensively, man, Dylan, that's some stank. That's waste management services right there, sponsored. It was not good. However, the defense, when put in a bad position against Oklahoma, such as after that first drive offensively where Ewers threw the interception, they stepped up. It seems like they step up every time that's needed. Now we're going to see if that's going to hold against Georgia. Offensively, a lot of the guys against Oklahoma, Dylan, just weren't there. However, Wisner stepped up. Gunnar Helm had a performance that really put him in the conversation as being one of the best tight ends
Yeah.
available in the upcoming draft. I believe he's available now for the next draft cycle. So a lot of just scenarios like that. And so it's hard to bet against the Longhorns, even though, as you said, you'd be an unwise bettor to bet against Georgia typically. So I
Yeah.
also have Texas winning. I've got 31-27. However, I believe that that score might be a little bit higher because the offenses have just been going off. We have some shared opponents, as Dylan, you were mentioning. I just wanted to bring up the score from the past game to further just solidify your point. Texas beat Mississippi State 35-13. Van Buren, as you're talking about, very freshly implemented into that quarterback role for Mississippi State at that point. But Georgia only beat them by 41-31. So, Dylan,
That is where I draw a distinction, though, just because of that experience. And again, unless Texas turns into the Cowboys' defense, I think they've got a great shot in this game.
I knew he was going to get it at some point, guys. I made it this far throughout the video without it. So, 31-27, my final score prediction. Dylan got his in. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not even shoot back. You know, we suck. The Cowboys suck. But more importantly than the Cowboys' pain, what do you think
Mm.
about this game? What's your score prediction for Texas versus Georgia? Let us know down below. As always, don't forget to have a great rest of your day, and a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated. Check us out at hornsports.com for all the latest. Bye.